Okay, gonna let everyone else in, and then we can get started soon.
Sorry for that.
All right, welcome everyone. We'll get started soon. Just checking a couple of things. All right, we're good to go. Uh, Thank you for joining us. This is an international panel for AI/ML, and we have two founders with us. One is based in California, and one is based sometimes in California. So, we'll let you hear from them a little bit more of their details. But first, I do want to thank Carly Heffernan and Alex DeLater for joining us. So, thank you both of you for joining us. I realize the time zones aren't ideal, but hopefully it's not too crazy for anyone. Everyone else joining us online, we hope you enjoyed this talk. For now, let's go and have Carly introduce yourself, and
Mhm.
then Alex after that.
So I'm Carly. I'm originally from Canada. Went to Harvard, graduated in 2019 with economics, and then quickly moved out to LA to work in prop tech. After about a year and a half, I was given an opportunity to work in traditional construction. I grew up around it. My family is in real estate development, so I was given an opportunity to build out a commercial division, and that led me to where I am today with solving issues in that space. So now I'm a founder of a Contech company solving for the miscommunication in construction teams to the field teams. So yeah, we're pre-launch and it's been a journey so far, even 3 months in.
All right, thank you, Carly. And then Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So originally from London, and now I founded Zelea, which solves a bunch of issues in pest control, mostly around the dispatch side of things because it's pretty complicated to know who goes where, and so that's my day to day. And we're based in SF, and it's great.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. It's a good thing, Alex, that you got back from the UK already. So since you're in New York, it's only 11 p.m. for you instead of 4 a.m. And it's a little bit of, playing with time zones. So I think, two really interesting things that got me thinking about connecting y'all is, you're both based in California. You're also from different countries and have, more or less said, okay, California might be the place to build up. And so, we'll touch on that stuff in depth a little bit more. But I think before we start with the questions I said I would ask, I do want to ask, what was it coming from your respective backgrounds? What was it that led y'all to say, yeah, I want to move to California, specifically California, as opposed to other tech cities around the world?
Yeah, for me, I didn't ever grow up coming to California. I lived in the coldest country, it feels in the coldest country in North America. So, I knew I wanted to explore the West Coast, but I was always drawn to startups, and that's what brought me out here originally. Um, I haven't spent a lot of time in SF, but I will say that when I'm in SF, that energy is just shifted. We were just talking about this the other day, how I'll go from LA, seeing all the billboards about movies, and then you go to SF and every billboard is a startup. It's crazy. So it's a hub and you get connected to incredible people. And yeah, that's what initially drew me to this place.
Yeah, I think for me it's something kind of similar. So like I think in my life there were two things that were like quite definite. I wanted to, have a startup, and also I'm always like developer first. Like I'm like a developer. And there's nowhere in the world like San Francisco for developers. Um, like it's really weird because you'll like go into any public space, like even like a coffee shop, and like you'll hear about like the latest like things in AI, and it's like this happens nowhere but here. And there's definitely like a type of like energy around like San Francisco, where I don't know, it feels like it definitely motivates you. But yeah.
All right. And then the other thing, because I know I mentioned you're from different countries and you're in California, but that's actually one thing. The other thing is you both have ties to the East Coast. How do you think that's impacted you despite being based in California?
Yeah. For me, I still go to New York every chance I get. My Most of my connections in the workplace and in any kind of VC connection is in New York. And so um that has been such a, huge thing in my journey in the first 3 months is connecting with the people back east, especially in Boston. I know there's a study out there that some of the like majority of the unicorns for AI right now are being built in Boston. I can find that study, but yeah, that's it's something that, is has been unexpectedly very, very helpful.
Yeah, for me, I'm basically almost always in San Francisco. It's just the case that we've kind of like grown enough now that like we have to like actually like visit customers, all this type of stuff. And a lot of our customers are just on this side of America.
That's interesting. Yeah.
When 47% of the country lives in the Eastern time zone, I definitely understand when you're saying, yeah, I got to be here sometimes. I mean, I will point out Connie is born and bred SF. I'm always joking saying, "Oh, you're so SF," and I'm sure. I mean, she's camera off and muted, helping us run some things in the background. But I'm sure she's sitting there kind of with that SF grin, like, "Yeah, that's my hometown." Of course.
Yeah. SF is amazing. It was the first time I was actually there this week in my life. Um, and yeah, it's hard to not fall in love with that place, with the energy.
Yeah, you can imagine how hard it was for me when I said, I feel like I gotta do something and I can't be here because this is not the place that needs it. So, I've
Yes.
been in Dallas the past 8 years. I still go back to SF when I get the chance. And, I actually go to the East Coast quite a bit, but you're right. There's a different energy in SF. When you see the billboards and it's a startup talking about, you know, we just got our millionth user or something, you're just like,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a very different feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, for both of you, you've been in your careers for some time now. How have you seen the field evolve?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer. I think one thing that's true that we've seen, I mean, obviously, I'm in pest control. It's like a field that's been super underserved for years when it comes to tech. Um, it's pretty interesting because the highest tech thing at the moment in pest control is probably like at least 10 years behind everything else. Um, and I think it's kind of interesting because it's finally happening now that they're getting like a massive upgrade. So a lot of it is just like almost like a wow moment, and it makes it super fun. I like it's a big reason why like actually like visiting customers is kind of important to us because there's so much stuff that you just you don't understand all the pain points until you probably spend time with them.
Yeah, very, very similar to construction. Weirdly, I think AI, although it's less than 2% adoption in construction right now, I actually think it is creating the like, hockey stick for digitalization in that industry because it's able to be easier adoption for these people, less behavior change. It just goes into their native workflows. If tech companies can meet clients in legacy industries where they're at, I think like that's where the disruption is going to be. And that's where I've noticed it evolve a lot more, especially in the last year.
All right. And it sounds like you probably come across some major hurdles that, maybe are still kind of plaguing the industry, or maybe not plaguing, but, hurdles that just have not been resolved. What are some of those?
Yeah, I think for me, what I see a lot of the time is a a lot of our customers actually like a lot of their workflows are essentially them trying to, have workarounds with the software that they currently use. And so when they have like a request for you to like build, it actually might not be the best thing for them. And so it's like a lot of the like what I do at the moment is like, I take the complaint of the customer and figure out, okay, what is it that they actually want? Because I feel like oftentimes what they want is just a workaround to what they, their existing problems are. Um, but like I think almost like reimagining the best way for them to work is kind of a big problem, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I would agree with Alex's point. I think workflows in service industries and construction are so modular and they're just so clunky that some of the solutions out there haven't really been able to be, super successful or generic across the field because it is very like custom for every company. And so I think the hurdle is trying to find a solution that's pretty standard, but um yeah, I would say that's a big hurdle. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of yeah.
I mean, just for this point, I see the exact same thing. Like the software that they currently use is really weird because every single company does things differently on the exact same software. And it's like you'd imagine it to like at least be somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Um, so like building things for the logic that all of these people have,
Mhm.
building like a generic platform for all of these different like ways that we use this is pretty difficult. But
Yeah. And I also think that like people like the data or the models are only as good as the data. And like if they're not inputting this data, like that is like a big thing for these companies is they can't get their workers to put in the data. So like um finding solutions to make it auto, which Alex, I think we have very similar ways of thinking about it. Boy, just like keep doing what they do.
yeah, I think we have a lot of the like similar problems, like even though we're in like different parts of like the South countries. Like I don't know, I feel like it's pretty interesting to see that, like that problem still carries over all the way there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I have to admit, one big problem I have is I know I need the data, and sometimes I'm struggling to input my own data, or not my own, but the data that I need so I can track it. And I'm just thinking, I don't know, I'll just do it later, or I don't need exact numbers. I
Yeah.
know, close enough. That's good enough. And
Mm.
it's a very tedious thing. And sometimes I'm starting thinking, you know, it would be nice if someone had an AI system that could do all that for me. But then it's also, I'm probably the best person to build that because I need that for myself. But I also don't want to have to build something that does that stuff because then I get into the tediousness of, oh my goodness, I got to think about how I would do it and then build the AI to do that. And
Mm.
sometimes I fall back into, you know what, it's easier to just kind of, that's good enough.
Yeah,
So,
it's never
Yeah,
ending.
I think one actual problem that I have is I feel like I'm really technical, and but the thing is, I build tech for people who are really like non-technical, and so it's like I almost have to like translate it in a way that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, because I don't want to, go into like customer calls and just tell them all this, tech stuff of why this can work and this can't. And it's just definitely been a learning curve for me, but
Yeah, that's so interesting, but I think like by going to the clients, that is like the best way. I was at a conference this week and the feedback is constantly like don't create the demand, like meet them where they're at. Or sorry, don't create the supply, like create the demand. I don't know if I'm saying that completely right, but yeah, you don't solve a problem that you don't for sure know is a problem unless you talk to them. So
yeah. Although in fairness, I vaguely remember hearing about some examples where someone created this supply and then the demand showed up because of that. So I could see how the phrasing that maybe whatever the original phrasing was, it's been obscured by these counter examples that have been successful.
mhm.
And so, yeah, it's one of those things where when people say rules are made to be broken,
Yeah,
all
I'm
right.
actually agree. I didn't know how much I needed ChatGPT. But now it's like I don't know what I would do without it, you know?
Yeah. Well, hey, you heard it here first, everyone. A Harvard alum saying it's okay to use ChatGPT.
I think it's yeah, a savior. I'm testing out Claude though. I just kind of got pushed towards that now, so
Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommend Claude.
okay, cool.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think honestly, that speaks volumes for someone from the UK to, to vouch for something with a French name. But no,
Yeah.
in all seriousness, I think it is one of those things where it's not that, oh, I'm from a certain background or a certain country or whatever, so don't use that. It's more, it gives us a lot more awareness of, okay, this specific thing, can I use it? Can I use it well? And then here's something maybe you've never seen before because of your background or country or whatever, or you just haven't seen it. And okay, maybe that's something you got to figure out. Do you use it or not? And, we can joke all we want about who's using ChatGPT or not, but, we can go back. I think it was Aristotle. He actually complained about the youth of his time, saying, oh, they waste their time reading. Wait, what? Isn't
Yeah.
basic literacy good?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
of course, his argument was, no, you should be able to remember everything. Yeah, okay, I mean, I guess, but
that's interesting.
But I mean, it's definitely like it's all like we've been doing like a lot of hiring at the moment, and like we know that developers will use like stuff like Casa, all this type of stuff.
Mhm.
And so we essentially use Casa like as part of like our interview process. And you definitely see that some people use it like well, and some people use it like terribly. Um, but I think it's pretty interesting that there's essentially like levels to how good people use this stuff as well.
Yeah. I think like that's been a huge conversation with me and my co-founders. I'm a non-technical co-founder, but we're constantly sharing each other tools and things like that. But um, when you think about like scaling a startup, it's a lot different in this day and age, and like what you can do with 15 people is a lot more than it used to be. I don't know what company it was, but they only had 15 people and they were like well over yeah, like I want to say it was like half a billion. Like you can do so much these days and have a lean team, which is exciting, but also yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I, that's a good, yeah. I think it is like a question of like building your company relying on all AI. I like I I thought of this question kind of this week. I'm like, what like impact could that have long term? And like with legalities, like who knows? Well, like I don't know if other people are thinking about that, but
Yeah, like the generally how I see it, at least with code, um, from like at least the interviews that I've seen is like if you retain the logic, like the human retains the logic, but cursor all this type of stuff
Mhm.
does all the work for you. I think that's fine. I think the problem goes when you like give away the logic because
Mm,
if you 5 years down the line or like even just like 5 weeks down the line you forget like what this thing even does, that's probably a problem. But you might not have to know every single line of code, but at least you know how it works. I think,
so true.
yeah.
yeah, definitely. I do want to kind of touch on something that both of you have done. Carly playing hockey, Alex is Rubik's Cubes. I do want to ask, do you think, well, not necessarily do you think, how have you taken, Carly, in your case, hockey, Alex, Rubik's Cubes, how have you taken those things from your life and translated that into what you do professionally?
I think I take the team kind of learnings of like being able to be on the same page and not necessarily love every person that you're on a team with, but having a same goal, creating a good culture. Like as a founder, I think of it as like the resilience I had and knowing like you can do literally anything if you want to and you can figure it out. So I think maybe confidence, but also it's just like yeah, I really focus on the culture and like wanting to have a good, team that wants to be doing this and not just like doing it for a job. Um, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wish I did more like team sports like growing up, to be honest. But I like looking back, like all the sports and activities that I did were always like, like solo essentially. So I feel like I got
Mm.
very confident just doing things myself. It's kind
Mhm.
of like a different like thing now because we obviously have like a team, all this type of stuff. But I think I gained like a huge amount of confidence just um alone. So I'm like for myself, I'm just like I'm happy. But I think one of the nice things with Rubik's cubes, obviously very nerd activity, but you meet
So
a lot of developers, and I think that's pretty exciting. So I think one thing that was nice was meeting all the people that were like me, because I felt like everywhere like I went, no one was like me. So that was definitely nice to have people to connect with.
that is so cool. Um, yeah, Rubik's Cubes like look like I did it for like a year and was like obsessed with learning how to do it. And then as soon as you do it, you kind of forget how to do it again. But I picked one up like a few months ago and I was like, it's crazy that this was a pattern I knew so well for like a week. So
Yeah,
like
I'm
do it at a scale, like that's incredible.
yeah, it's definitely very satisfying the first time you do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Cool.
Yeah. I would say I was very much a chaos kind of person growing up because I played basketball my whole life. So with Rubik's cubes, it was if I can't just figure it out on the spot, I'm just like, what's the point? But
Just
then, jigsaw puzzles and other things that probably if I had taken those skills and translated them, probably could have done Rubik's cubes. But I was always like, no, just action, move fast. And Carl, you probably understand this from hockey. I would say basketball and hockey are two of the most chaotic sports because most players just on a dime, you're going from offense to defense, back to defense. Now it's a scramble. You're not on offense or defense because it's just fight to get the ball or the puck. And then suddenly, I guess I'm on offense, but I'm going back to my goal. I'm doing this thing.
Mhm.
You're just constantly just moving back and forth. And I think in my case, rather than here's the discipline to stay a course, I had to learn that later. What I learned early on is in chaos, I can navigate very quickly what I need to do when other people are trying to figure out what's going on. And uh, that was partly why when I was thinking, do I really need to leave SF? Yeah, I think I need to go back to Dallas, create these hackathons in a place that didn't have it, start building up a fintech accelerator. I think is because of kind of how I approach things. For better or worse, it led to me kind of saying, all right, no one knows what's going on here in the sense of this doesn't exist. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna make it happen. And, I think it's interesting how, you know, you two have fonder memories of Rubik's Cubes, and I went in the opposite direction. But at the same time, Carly, you and I played sports that have very similar chaotic rhythms. And, this is proof that we can all easily just somehow end up, we just learn the very different lessons in life from things that have a lot more parallels than people realize. So, you know, it's just interesting to see how we've all come across each other. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, we have more similarities than people realize, but we drew different lessons for our lives.
Yeah, I totally agree. And meeting like technical founders is like it's my favorite thing because I'm like we like I wasn't meant to like people wouldn't look at me and be like you're a tech founder probably. But like then you go to the tech side where they're a technical founder, and sometimes they're like, whoa, you coded and now you're doing business and like the business side of things. Like that is, it's like a cool thing that you can really just like learn anything as you go through it. I don't suspect I'm going to learn much coding, but like, I think yeah, I didn't know a ton about AI and to the capacity that I do now. And in the last year, it's just like a 180. And I don't know, Alex, with running a company, I'm sure it's been an adjustment working with team and all that. So, but it's just like so cool, personality can be very similar in different ways.
Yeah, like I think one thing that I would have loved initially with like team sports is you have like quite a lot of trust in your teammates.
Mm,
I think this is definitely something like something for me to learn. Like, because before this, I was like, you know, starting companies were like, it's completely solo, and
mhm.
so being part of a team definitely was quite like a bit of a learning like experience. But no, I love it. And yeah, it's really cool. Like I think the other thing is like short bursts of like intensity. I think I
Mm,
definitely would have loved to experience that.
mm. Yeah, I would have loved to experience some technical stuff though. Can't have it all.
Yeah. So I do have one more question, kind of going back to the AI side of things. Um, Based on everything you've done before, up until now, everything that's been going on recently, how do you see your field disrupting the future?
Mm. Um, I think for like particularly what we're solving for, there's a lot of tariffs, obviously. There's, you know, labor shortages in construction, all that. I think if we can increase productivity and make people's lives a lot easier and give time back and money back, it can, solve a little piece of that pie that construction teams are, losing out on. But yeah, I would say initially that's my like first thought. Um,
Yeah, I think for me, I think what's really exciting is, I mean, there's a lot that is exciting, but I think what changes like the most with stuff like AI is I think a lot of the jobs will change around. Like, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the case of, everyone loses that job, but I do think there definitely will be like a change of jobs. And I think on average, there'll probably be jobs that people enjoy more. Um, so, for example, I mean, it's definitely difficult in the short term, but I definitely think in the long term, it makes for a happier society. But in terms of pest control, I definitely think companies, get a lot leaner and a lot less really tedious human work is necessary. If you look at, the work that we're replacing, it's incredibly boring. I don't think anyone enjoys it. Um, but I do think as well as like when people say AI today, I think they're mostly talking about LLMs, which are definitely not like a one thing fit, like solves everything, but I think AI will get there in the end.
mhm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where you know, the world is changing very quickly, a little bit faster right now than recently because, recently with the pandemic, everyone getting used to doing remote work,
Mhm.
development of AI and all that. I definitely do think, yeah, there's going to be some pretty quick changes. But looking at stuff like the Industrial Revolution, there's always going to be a bit of a lag between jobs being displaced and then new jobs being created. And I think it's just one of those things where, obviously that leads to a lot of philosophical and political and or geopolitical questions, sociological questions. But I think in general, we are seeing kind of, what is there that people can do to keep up? And, obviously in this case, having this talk with you two, I'm sure it'll help a lot of people kind of get a sense of, okay, that's what these founders are doing, how they took things in their lives and translated it to their professions, a little bit of what's going on in the world. So really appreciate y'all coming on. I think it just kind of comes down to, you know, there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and if we can come together and kind of create a little bit more for others, you know. Now obviously we're also hoping that our ideas are, that billion trillion dollar unicorn. We're not going to say no to that, but I do think it's one of those things where, in the end, it does come down to, there's a lot of people out there wanting to help out. It's just sometimes maybe you're not aware they're doing a talk over there on this weekend, or maybe this is the one you're attending. So I think it just it just comes down to, keep an eye out. There's more help out there than a lot of people realize. So, appreciate you two coming on. Obviously, everyone joining us, we hope you enjoyed this, and we'll be sending out the YouTube link. I think the main thing is just, there's a lot of great life experiences from both of you. So, do you want to leave any closing words for everyone?
I mean, um, I think for now, I think the most exciting thing is I think, especially like as a developer, I think it's just important to like always be building things. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's the most important thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think once you start, it's kind of like you get 2 weeks in and you're like, it becomes an addiction almost.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I get like people are always like take care of yourself and you take care of yourself, but it's also like you are so excited about this and moving fast is a little easier these days. But yeah, I think if you have something you want to go for, it's a lot easier if you just start.
yeah, and I also think like there's an amount of like satisfaction that you get like that is like indescribable when like someone actually uses something that you build and it's actually useful to them. I think that's like an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I agree.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being on here as speakers. We have a little bit of time for a couple questions, not a lot. But I would say, if anyone has a question, raise your hand. I guess, with the Zoom function, we'll take one or two questions.
We answered all their questions.
Yeah, sometimes that does happen. All right. Well, I guess in that case, what we'll do is we will send out the YouTube link to everyone. And you know, anyone has questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Um, Sometimes, yeah, we answer all the questions, and other times you think of questions later. That's fine. We hope this was a good talk for all of you to hear. Carly and Alex, thank you so much. We definitely are excited to find out soon. UCLA has sent in their proposal to the administration to get approved. Stanford, we're talking to the Stanford AI Club. So hopefully we'll be announcing soon specific dates for the California event and obviously get you two to show up in person. But for everyone, for now, we thank you for joining us online, and hopefully we'll all see each other in person soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so
So,
much.
hello, can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Yes, of course.
I was looking for the raise hand button and I had no idea where that button was. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question on what y'all's thoughts are on LLMs and then inference locally with like local privatization versus on cloud and how you see that moving in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think things will move more locally in the future. I think most devices just aren't powerful enough for like even my MacBook can only do like small models, right? Um, but I definitely think like maybe like 2 years out, like really powerful models will be on like machines. I think one of the big limitations at the moment of actually just AI in general is like there's definitely something wrong with how we're training AI at the moment. Like I think AI does a way better job than human brains in a lot of things. But I think if you look at the amount of like power that a human brain requires versus how much power it requires, like it takes to actually train a model, there's definitely some like mismatch there. Um, like realistically, to train a super smart model, you shouldn't need to use anything more than like 20 watts of power. So there's definitely something wrong with what we're doing there. And I think um, companies that are trying to train AI using CPUs rather than GPUs is like I think if we solve this, we'll be in like a really good position. But for local versus on cloud, I think cloud will always win in the near term, and then I think local will take off pretty soon after that. Yeah. I hope that answers it, but not sure.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. Yeah, I know there was like some news recently for Meta how they recently partnered to go for like a I think they got a nuclear reactor just to power a lot of the AI inference for some of their cloud stuff that they're doing. So I'm hoping that you are right, that in the future we move towards more local compute because it's gonna get expensive real quick.
Yeah, because like if you think about it, like for someone to learn how to drive, right? Like a human might, become a pretty okay driver in like 20 hours of driving, right? An LLM, or sorry, an AI might require like hundreds of thousands of hours of driving, just to become a good driver. And it's like, why is there a mismatch there? I don't know if you've ever used a Waymo, but like Waymos feel way smoother than any human
Yeah.
driver that I've had. But why does it take so long to get there? And I think the actual algorithms that we use to train AI at the moment definitely need some improvements, but it's just a difficult problem to solve.
Yeah, we were talking about this honestly today, how we think that right now AI is just going so fast that no one's like focusing on that portion. And next year is going to be maybe the next 2 years is going to be the focus on that, where you'll see startups kind of shifting towards that to make it easier for people to train their LLMs. So that's my take as a non-technical person.
Honestly, I think it's spot on. Like,
Yeah.
you definitely see the need for it.
All right, thanks, Jose, for the question. Yeah, I'm not sure why the raise hand button didn't show up for you, but I'm glad you jumped in. I was actually about to close out, so glad we got your question in.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering the question. I think what you had said maps on almost perfectly. I think that's what I saw with a lot of the compute for like graphics cards, how they were trying to ramp up as quickly as possible, and they were trying to get as much as possible, as much power, and then obviously that required more resources just all around. And then now we see that they're trying to go a little bit more and more efficient. But yeah, I think that you guys answered my questions perfectly. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
honestly, like it is the classic startup thing. You like, you do something very quickly, you grow very fast, and then you figure out how to actually make it like more efficient.
Mhm.
All right. I guess that's it for now. So thank you, everyone. We will send the YouTube link to everyone. We'll also post it in the Discord. Of course, Carly, Alex, you're welcome to share it with your communities. Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. We'll send out those links, and we hope everyone has a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.